Thank you. I hope I didn't oversell the visuals. I can only go by what they give you, you know? But I have many things to show you. 2024, what a year. A lot happens in archaeology in one year. Recently on social media, I've seen people complaining that archaeology is too slow. Well, what's taken so long? Why haven't they finished excavating, this site or whatever? But it's very methodical, right? It takes a while. But even so, when we go over what happened this year, like, wow, that's a lot. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I just picked out what I thought were the most interesting things. But, there's like 100 times more than that to really talk about. But we'll see what we can squeeze into today's session. So I'm going to share with you what I thought were the notable finds. We're talking not only about things that were actually dug up this year, but also analyses of things that were dug up previously, but there are new revelations about these things that were found previously. So I'll talk about those studies as well. So you ready to get into it?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I forgot to ask you, Smitty, how to advance the slides.
Arrows down on the east.
The arrows. Yes, of course, that would make sense. Okay, there we go. 3 finds. And where? Uzbekistan. You probably didn't know there was much going on in archaeology there. But this is in the Surkhandaryo region of Uzbekistan, and archaeologists there made not just 1, but 3 significant discoveries in 2024. And the archaeologists working there are Chinese archaeologists who are working in conjunction with people from Uzbekistan, locals. But the reason why they're interested in it, the Chinese, is because it's on the Silk Road. And they're interested in the history of the Silk Road. And it goes right through Uzbekistan. It went right through Uzbekistan. So anyway, they uncovered 3 different sites there at Surkhandaryo. And the first was an 8th century BCE settlement near the Surkhandaryo River. And this site had square-shaped structures. You can see a little bit here. Let me show you this next page as well. They had these square-shaped structures. They found kilns. They found waste pits and tools like millstones and pestles and things like that. And they could see that there was food processing there. And so this is a long time ago, yeah? And then they also found a Kushan era site. I don't know if you know about the Kushanas, the Kushan Empire. That existed in the early centuries, CE, 1st to 3rd centuries. They found some burial sites. That's on the bottom right. Oh, some people might look at that one on the top left and say, wait a minute, isn't that Egypt? This is just a step pyramid. Yeah, do you know they have step pyramids in Uzbekistan? Central Asia, there are small. It's small, it's not huge. Small step pyramids that are tombs of rulers. Central Asia, Kazakhstan has some as well. That was found previously. But anyway, they're continuing to excavate. This is the 8th century BCE site. This is the 1st to 3rd century CE site. They also found some cliff paintings, and that's the 3rd site. I couldn't find an image of the cliff paintings, but they also found some cliff paintings showing animals and hunting scenes, which I believe are prehistoric. So that's one of the sites. Let's look at another one, okay? In Kiridi, India, now this site has been excavated for a number of years. It's in South India, all right? But one of the interesting finds from 2024 was that thing that you see on the right. And what is it? It's a pipe. It's a ceramic pipe. And what was it for? This is, by the way, 2,600 years old. All right, and it shows that there was water being run through it at that time. So you're probably thinking, South India, they probably weren't that advanced at that time. They're probably really backwards or something like that. No, okay, this is a city in southern India. It's one of the major archaeological sites there. This goes back to the Sangam era, Sangam, Sangam era, and that's from about 600 BCE. So this city is already partly excavated, but the pipeline is a new discovery from 2024. All right, let's go over to Egypt. where an astronomical observatory was found at Kafr el-Sheikh. This is in northern Egypt, in the Delta area. And it's really hard to find things in the Delta area because everything got flooded, the waters and all that. So it's not where archaeological sites are in the best condition. However, at Kafr el-Sheikh, which, by the way, I got to visit a couple of years ago, they have a great museum there. There are things there. And Kafr el-Sheikh has a site that's been there, the archaeological site, but the observatory is a new find from this year, and it dates back to the 6th century BCE. So it's about the same time as that the pipeline I was just telling you about. But so this is from the late period in Egypt, just before the Greeks and Romans took over, but they found the remains of a observatory. Okay, I don't know if you've ever heard of the site of Buto. This is where Buto was. Buto is mentioned in like the ancient writer Manetho as a really early site that the Egyptians lived in. Well, they lived in it for a long, long time. This is from the late period, but anyway, it shows that they were doing astronomical observations in Egypt at that time. This is for the purpose of agriculture, following the calendar, all of that. And it's pretty advanced. I think it's the oldest observatory found in Egypt, so significant discovery there. Now let's fly over to China. Oh, by the way, there's another few shots from the site. Sorry, things that were found there. Oh, they also found a shadow clock that they used for keeping the time of day at the site at the observatory. So that was pretty cool too. We're going to go now to China, to a place called Guangzhou. This is, I think it's in south central China, Guangzhou. Now I'm trying to remember now my map, but anyway, this is a site that's 2,100 years old, and it's a huge cemetery. Okay, this is from the time of the Han Dynasty, a very powerful dynasty in ancient China, the second only dynasty, and the first one that lasted for any length of time. And they found all 148 tombs there with many, many artifacts. Let me show you. Well, actually, I actually don't have the artifacts, but this is the site closer up. There were 196 artifacts that were found there, including a pottery, of course, that's always there, jade, porcelain, bronze items. All right, and yeah, there are also some tombs from slightly later, but also ancient. So it's a huge cemetery, and more, of course, will be found there. But the uncovering of the site was a big thing this year. All right, we're going to go back to Egypt now to talk about an old kingdom tomb that was found at Dashur. If you might have heard of Dashur before, this is where the Red Pyramid is. You ever hear of the Red Pyramid in Egypt? That's Dashur. Well, there are some tombs there besides the pharaohs. You have an old kingdom tomb that was found this year. This was an archaeological expedition led by a German team. And this is 4,300 years old. The Old Kingdom is old, okay? This is like as old as the pyramids. So they found a tomb belonging to a man named Seneb Neb-Ah. And he was a royal official. And also his wife is interred there as well. Her name was Idet, and she was a priestess of the goddess Hathor. And the site is from the 5th or 6th dynasty. So this is very, very early, 4,300 years old. All right, and there was some art found in it, as you can see there on the bottom right. They found scenes there. This is just one example, but they found scenes there of agriculture. You got donkeys, of course, people threshing grain. There were some Nile ships, or boats, I should say, that were depicted. Administrative activities, offerings to the gods, and so forth. And hieroglyphs that told you all about the couple that were buried there. So yeah, pretty interesting discovery in Egypt. Now let's go to the Pacific Islands, to Borobudur. I don't know if you've ever heard of Borobudur. It's a Buddhist site. Excavators working there are from Japan. This is one of the interesting things about archaeology, right, is you find that in many countries there are foreign teams that are working there. And that's because there aren't enough archaeologists sometimes in one country to do everything, and people want to come in and do the job. So they get permissions, they get the license to do it, and they come in. So anyway, this is from these Japanese archaeologists. We're working on one particular project. This is not archaeology per se. It's not excavation, I mean. It is the use of AI technology to see what is behind something. So basically what happened was the foundations of the temple were faltering, and they had to build things near the base of the structure to keep it safe from the rising water levels and things like that. And it required covering up some of the reliefs, the sculptural reliefs on the walls, right? Now, one particular area was covered for a long time. They had an old photo of the relief, but that's all. And they used AI technology and 3D modeling to simulate, you can see this on the right, simulate what was done. So they're using the photo to help them, but they're also using, well, I'm not even exactly sure how they're doing it with AI, but the AI is reconstructing what is behind this wall, okay, this modern wall. It restores all of the dimensions of it. The photo's flat, right? It's 2D. But the AI is able to make it 3D to figure out exactly how far it's sticking out and all of that. And then let me show you this, a part of it. So this is the reconstruction with color of a part of it. There actually were a number of panels. Okay, this is one of them. So this is not technically a photograph. This is AI technology that's used the old photo and then some of the 3D modeling to be able to create what the relief looked like. So it's now covered, nobody can see it, but this technology enables them to show it to us, how it might have looked. All right, let's look at another one. Deep water shipwreck in the Eastern Mediterranean. Yes, archaeologists, you know, they're underwater archaeologists, and they were working on, this is about 56 miles off the coast of Israel in the Mediterranean. And there was a Bronze Age merchant vessel that was found there. They uncovered it with an ROV, they call it, which is a remote operated vehicle. And it was actually an energy company that was doing something else there, but they saw it while they were surveying underwater. And then they brought in the archaeologists to go and retrieve. So the ship was in relatively good condition, but I couldn't find any shots of the ship itself. But I did find shots of the archaeologists bringing out some of the amphorae up from the bottom. So you can see some of the pots here. Now this ship was about 39 to 46 feet long, and it was from the time between about 1400 and 1300 BCE. So this is very old. All right, Bronze Age, right? So this is Canaanite. They had things in there like olive oil and honey. They had wine and so forth. So this is all it was a cargo ship. But what makes it interesting is it's in deep waters. And we thought in that time period that they weren't going out that far to sea. We thought everyone was just going up and down the coast, right? Going from one place to another along the coast. You go around, you don't go across. The Minoans may have gone across. But anyway, this tells us that people were going across. Now, this particular ship didn't make it, but yeah, people were going across. I don't think it was the only one, is what we're trying to say, right? That they probably were going back and forth, but it was dangerous for ships at that time. All right, let's go to the Pacific. An ancient city was discovered in Tonga, Polynesian Kingdom. All right. This is a whole new chapter in Pacific history that they didn't know about. They used cutting edge aerial scanning technology, and they identified about 10,000 mounds. And let me show you some of the scans here. So a little bit further away on the left photo and closer on the right photo. It's not, I'm sorry, not a photo. It's a computer generated image, but it's from the scan. Okay. And it's huge. So that's why they're calling it a city. Like a lot of people were living here. So it's a city. Yeah, 10,000 mounds, about 12,000 Oh, no, it's about 12,000, I'm sorry, it's about 12 kilometers from the capital city of Tonga today. But the mounds date back to 300 CE, which is 700 years earlier than previously thought. Right? So they didn't know that there was something like this that far back. And now we do know. So history gets revised once again. This is not like a compact European city. It's very spread out. So it tells you a little bit about how the people then lived. All right. Yes, it's a lot of people in one small area, but not so smushed together as we're used to. Okay. But it changes our understanding of Pacific history, and they expect that they may find more. So that's interesting. This is a little bit more local. Professor Tanasi from the University of South Florida was doing some research on an ancient Egyptian mug with a depiction of the god Bes on it, a fertility god. And using some very advanced chemical analysis, he was able, well, there was a whole team working with him on this, but they identified remnants of a hallucinogenic cocktail within the mug. Yeah. This is a 2,000-year-old mug. Okay. And this is a fertility, he's a fertility god, and this vessel is for probably the rites associated with that god. So this is during some kind of ritual that people would be drinking this stuff, okay? So they were doing it probably for connecting to the divine world, you know, that this is a common thing. But yeah, but it shows that Egyptians were using substances like these. You know, people have speculated about this before, and they did have access to some hallucinogenic plants and things like that, but you wonder, well, is there any real solid evidence of the Egyptians using this stuff? And now there is. So that was a pretty interesting discovery as well. Back over to China. They found a Tang Dynasty tomb. Actually, the tomb was discovered, I think, a year or two ago. I can't remember now exactly. But now they've gone in and they've basically published the findings of the tomb, what was in it. So the world didn't know about it until 2024. All right. This is from the Tang Dynasty. If you don't know when that is, the tomb specifically is dated to the year 736 CE. So this is of our own era, and it belonged to a 63-year-old man and his wife. And the artwork may depict their lives, although we're not entirely sure of this, but there's quite a bit of art in it. It's not the most advanced art, okay? As you can see, it's a little cartoonish. But you can see the whole thing there up there on the top, and you can see some examples more close up. But one of the things that got a lot of attention from it is that there's a depiction of a Westerner, I guess, if you want to call him that, in the one on the bottom right, because he's got light hair, and he's the guy in the bathtub, I'm assuming. Or I'm sorry, washing. Maybe they're washing in. Are they in the bathtub? I don't know. But it looks like they're either in it or sticking their hands into it or something like that. But yeah, this is doesn't look like a Chinese person per se. So they're like, well, but the thing you don't, well, you do know this about the Tang Dynasty is that it was a cosmopolitan time, and people were coming in from all over trading. Foreigners were in the capital city, and they had their own quarters in the city. So there were people from outside that were coming to China to trade and do business and all of that. So that's really interesting. So I wanted to share that one with you. Speaking of art, there were some newly discovered frescoes at Pompeii. You're going to learn more about Pompeii next month, I guess. Yeah, so you might be surprised, but well, I thought they already excavated Pompeii. Aren't they done with that? No, it's still ongoing. But remember, this is the whole city. So yeah, people have been going there for years to visit, but that's just one section of town. All right, there's a lot that still has to be uncovered. So there's enough work at Pompeii still to go on for many years. And so they've been doing some more work here. This is from a residential and commercial block known as Region 9 of the city. And there was pumice and ash all over it, and they had to uncover it. And when they did, they found this house here with Beautiful frescoes. Let me show them to you. Here's one of them. Okay. Yeah, and this is not enhanced at all. This is just how it looked, I think, when they found it. Okay. There's two images that they found. One is of Prince Paris meeting Helen from the Trojan War story. Okay. And I think that's what this one is. And then the other one is, oh wait, now I'm getting confused about which one is which, because this one, the other one is Apollo trying to seduce Cassandra. So that's got to be it, right? And then yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So this one's a little even better condition. So they're both from Trojan War mythology. So yeah, it's these are beautiful. I mean, is it teaching us anything particularly monumentous? No, but I think it's always great to find ancient works of art in such good condition. All right. And then we have here in the Americas now, we're in Mesoamerica. This is in the Yucatan Peninsula at a place called Coba. Maybe you know about it. And the site's not in the greatest condition, but they recently found a new stela. And it has 123 hieroglyphs on it, and it's got a date on it. And the date is May 12th. Well, it doesn't actually say May 12th, but translating it into our own date, okay, it's May 12th, 569 CE. So, yeah, and it reveals the founding of another Maya city that we never heard of before. And that Maya city was known as Quetzal, which means Deer Mountain. And it mentions a ruler of that city called Kawilchakchen. So this is actually about the dynastic history of Coba. They were related, I guess, the ruling family. So it's filling in some of the gaps about the history of the site. Let me show it to you. Okay, you can see on the bottom right part of the inscription. So it's a pretty important breakthrough, and it fills in some of our knowledge about the history of Coba and the surrounding area, and maybe we can start looking for the city it's talking about. So that was interesting too. An inscription with never before seen writing was found in the country of Georgia. Yes, in the region of Dmanisi, I guess you say. And the inscription looks like this. It's clearly writing, isn't it? That's definitely writing, but nobody knows how to read it. So it's another undeciphered script. It's made of local basalt, and there's about 60 symbols. And they do know 39 of these symbols match some symbols that we've seen in other writing kind of from the area from later times. So there could, it could be possible perhaps to decipher it, but right now we don't know what it says. And so it's speculated that it's an early Caucasian alphabet, but work still needs to be done on this. And I think you probably need to find more inscriptions in order to really decipher it, because you need a good database, and we don't have one right now. But yeah, so a new writing system. So I thought that was interesting too. Aborted attempt at civilization at Shaki Kora. This is in the Middle East. This is in Iraq, in Kurdistan, or Iraq, Kurdistani region. And some archaeologists from the University of Glasgow were working here. And what they found was something very interesting. So this goes way back to the 4th millennium BCE. This is when the world's, well, at least the Middle East, but right now, yeah, the world's first cities were popping up. Okay, you probably heard of Uruk, which was for a long time believed to be the earliest ever city. This is from around that same time. Okay, now this is a little bit north of there. This is in northern Mesopotamia, but this was a major city that didn't work out. That's the interesting thing about it. It didn't work out. Okay. Now, what do I mean? Well, the archaeologists say that there's no evidence that this place was destroyed in a fire or conquered, or that somebody took it, or any of the other reasons for a city going extinct. People just moved out. Okay, they just peacefully left. All right, and I don't think it was for reasons of drought or anything like that either. Their interpretation is they tried out a city and they didn't like it. So in other words, people were coming up with this idea of creating cities, and other people were doing it. So let's make a city, let's do it. And it only lasted for a very, very short time. I think, do they say how long? I don't think they might say in a longer article, but I didn't write it down. But it didn't last for very long. But you see those bowls on the bottom right there? This is typical for cities of that time. Uruk had these as well. In fact, they may have invented them. And it's to feed a lot of people, right? They're not really that great. This is like the Tupperware of the time, okay? And they were useful. They break. It's no problem. They're cheap. You just get another one. So this is what you find in cities. But Shaki Kora did not last. And they think it was because they tried out civilization and then decided it wasn't working for them. So it's kind of interesting. We'll find out more as they continue to work there. In China, they found a royal tomb from the ancient state of Chu. I don't know if you know about the ancient state of Chu. This is from the Warring States period in Chinese history. This is 2,200 years old. And the burial site that they found here is, let's see, it gave them over 1,000 artifacts. Okay, they found figurines, bronze good, lacquerware, ceremonial items. Okay, and let me show you some more here. Examples. So this is how they found these many of these items, and you can see some lacquerware there on the bottom right from the ancient state of Chu. So this is a period when China was divided, and there were many states that were fighting with each other. Okay, and the state of Chu was in the southwest of China. Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting discovery as well. I don't know if you've heard of Sanxingdui. And this is a site in China that all kinds of beautiful artifacts are being found. This is from the state of Shu, but the state of Chu was next door neighbor. Yes. Okay. Hundreds of new artifacts from Babylon. Yes, we're talking about the actual site of Babylon in Iraq. Okay, and this was the team of archaeologists were from Iraq, and they've been digging up some more things in Babylon. There's more to be found there. Now they found two archaeological layers. One was from the Sassanid period, so it's still ancient, but from later times. And then one was, the older one, was back to the ancient Babylonian period, the time of Nebuchadnezzar and all of that. So that is a particularly interesting layer. But they found cuneiform tablets, so they've got writings that were found. You can see there on the left. They found some art. All right. They found some residential units where people were living. Yeah, so they're continuing to work there. So more things are coming out of Babylon. And speaking of Babylon, another discovery was made, and that is, you've seen this before, right? The Ishtar Gate, which they brought to the UK. It's in the British Museum, right? I believe so. Oh, it's in Berlin? Oh, it's in Berlin. Okay, parts of it are in the British Museum, but this gate, I think, yeah, you might be right, it's in Berlin. And so they used a new technology to date this gate called archaeomagnetism, which is kind of interesting. Archaeomagnetism, what is it? I don't know exactly how it works, okay? But apparently the magnetic field of the Earth is preserved in the bricks, and you can measure it. And they've been able to figure out, they already knew that the Ishtar Gate went through 3 building phases, and they wanted to, there was some debate about whether the third and final phase was from the time of Nebuchadnezzar. They know that the Nebuchadnezzar built the gate initially, but what the final version of the gate, was that from his time or was it from later? So they did the work. It comes out to 583 BCE, which is right in the reign of Nebuchadnezzar. So he made the whole gate. All three phases were done during his kingship. All right. So archaeomagnetism. Who knew? I didn't even know about this science before. So very interesting. Can you believe all this is happening in 2024? But every year is like this. Okay, look at this. Çatalhöyük. I don't know if you know about this site. It's a prehistoric site. Some people call it a proto-city. This is from the Neolithic period. It's in southern Turkey, southern central Turkey. And it's got, we've known about it for a while, and it's continuing to be excavated. But it was often said to be like the forerunner of cities. It was almost a city. Okay, and they estimated its population to be maybe up to 10,000 people, which someone might say is a city. Well, a new population estimate has been done. Researchers were taking new radiocarbon dates. They were doing sediment studies and comparisons with modern farming villages, and that revealed that the structures that they dug up there were not occupied in the same time period. They come from different time periods, which makes them have to revise the population estimate. And now they're saying the site only had maybe 600 to 800 people living in it at any one time. So it isn't a proto-city. It's still an amazing site, okay? I think this might disappoint some people, but they're saying, like, you know what? We don't really have evidence for 10,000 people living here at one time. It looks like it was smaller than that. That's Çatalhöyük. Easter Island, Rapa Nui. Two studies have been done about this particular island that I thought were interesting this year. One of which was there was a theory that, and I think this is just an old theory. Well, actually, no, it's a scholarly theory, I believe, about the writing in Rapa Nui. There's actually there's a number of ideas about Easter Island that come from colonial times, and we've had to revise these things, okay? But one of these things is, did Europeans give the Rapa, do you say Rapa Nui? Wait, what would you call them? These are Moai statues. Are they the Moai people? The Moai people on Rapa Nui? Maybe, yeah. Did they get the idea of writing from Europeans? Right? Because they have writing system. They have a writing system. Here, let me show you. Rongo Rongo, it's called. They have a writing system. And so there's a recent study done, 2024, of the writings. And they want to know when these tablets were made, right? Were they made before or after the Europeans showed up? Okay? It's still undeciphered, by the way. Anyway, turns out they're using radiocarbon dating to figure out how old they are. Turns out they were made before the Europeans showed up on the island. So yeah, they came up with the writing system by themselves. They didn't have European help. The other discovery about Rapa Nui is a DNA study. Okay, now this was a scholarly theory. Okay, it was called the ecocide theory. They believe that there was a population collapse sometime in the period between the 1400s and 1945, somewhere, that there was a population collapse on the island. But the DNA study revealed that no, there was no population collapse on the island. They just never really had a huge population, right? So in other words, they thought there was a giant population on the island and something happened, a catastrophe or something like that, and it greatly reduced the population of the island. But it turns out it's remained pretty consistent over time. So that was the other study. So very interesting. All right. I'm not keeping track of time here. How are we doing? Oh, wow, time's going fast. Okay. I need to move along. All right. 10 shipwrecks in the Kassos Strait. This is in Greece. Okay. Quite a number of shipwrecks were found, right? 10, when you think about it. And they come from all different time periods. But I'm mostly interested in the ancient ones, but there was one from about 3000 BCE. There was a classical one from about 460 BCE, and then there was a Hellenistic one from about 100 BCE to 100 CE, and then a Roman one from between 200 and 300 CE. So those are the oldest ones. And this is going to rewrite the history of the area, because they're just starting now to take everything up and start to study all the items. But yeah, I guess it must have been a dangerous strait for the boats to go through, the ships to go through, because a lot of them sunk there. But they found 10 of them. So amazing. All right. Oldest known alphabetic writing. Now this writing was found, I think, a few years ago. And the professor, his name is Glenn Schwartz from Johns Hopkins University, already had the idea that maybe this is an alphabet. But in 2024, he went to a conference and officially announced that their studies of these objects, this is one and here's another one, their study of these objects have confirmed, to him anyway, that this is an early alphabet. Now, how old are they? These clay cylinders are from 2400 BCE. Very, very old. This is 500 years earlier than the oldest alphabetic script that's ever been found. So if it is true, this is going to rewrite the history of the alphabet, but it's still early days here to know exactly how it's all going to play out. But this is the announcement about that. Right? Now, this story you may have heard of. The charred scroll from Herculaneum. Does anyone know about this? Another one of the cities like Pompeii that got covered by the volcano. Well, for a long time, they've had several damaged scrolls. They're just burnt scrolls. And they knew that if they unrolled them, they would just all fall apart. Okay. Well, anyway, they've been using AI and computer scanning technology to try to read them. And so they started working on one in particular, and early this year, in early 2024, they found this scroll from, got destroyed in the year 79, and they were able to get this. So with old technology, you could not do this, okay? But now they're able to read this. Now they're probably going to start working on the other ones too. We'll probably hear more about them. And yeah, so it'll be really interesting to start this. Now they're just fragments, so it's hard to read a whole, a whole book here. But the fact that we can read things like this is amazing. So I'm hoping that we're going to find more information with that. Another timing revision. You may have heard of the story of Masada. The Romans had rebels holed up on the fortress. This is a fortress that was built by Herod the Great. And after the siege of Jerusalem and the fall of Jerusalem, a few years later in 73, I think this was CE, there was a Roman siege of Masada. And it finally fell, of course. Well, it used to be believed, because Jerusalem fell in the year 70, and this fell in 73, they used to think, wow, the Romans must have been laying siege to Masada for like 3 years or something like that. It must have taken them a really long time to get up into the fortress. Well, new drone imaging technology and 3D modeling helped researchers to reconstruct the siege ramp and everything that the Romans built to get up onto the plateau. And from what they've been able to tell, it took less than 2 months.
Oh.
Yeah. And the actual ramp going up that they built, it probably took like 2 weeks. Yeah. So now they have to rewrite that history a little bit. It seems that the Romans left and then came back to get Masada for some reason or other. It wasn't just a continuation of the whole campaign against Jerusalem. It was something separate that happened a little bit later. So history is getting rewritten as we find new things. Huge Maya city found in the jungle. And it was found through laser survey technology, not by going into the jungle. Okay. But there was a PhD student. His name was Luke Alt Thomas. He was going to Tulane University, and he was just casually browsing LiDAR data and came across this. And so he said, "This is a city here. This is a city." It's called, and he named it Valeriana. And this place is huge. It's as big as Calakmul, which is like the largest Mayan city that we know about, or one of them anyway. So this is a massive Maya city. There's over, they estimate 6,500 buildings. Pyramids, plazas, sports fields, causeways, dating between 750 and 850 CE, and a population of up to 50,000 people. So they still have to go in there and excavate, but you can see from the scanning that it's there. So that's super interesting too. You know about the first emperor, right? The terracotta warriors in China, you know that? Qin Shi Huang, his name is, the first emperor of China. Well, they're still digging there, and they found a new tomb. And it's right within the mausoleum. And this is from the 3rd century BCE. A 16-ton coffin right near the terracotta army. It was about 16 meters deep in the ground. And archaeologists found it. There was a Netflix special that covered this. This image is actually taken from that. But there's a possible connection with Prince Gao, who was the son of the emperor. They think it could be his tomb. They haven't verified it yet, but it would be really cool if it was the prince's tomb that's talked about in some of the sources, the written sources from the time they knew about it, but they've never found his tomb. So this could be his son's tomb. All right, I got 2 more to cover, and then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for questions. All right. An intact royal tomb was found in Panama as well. This dates back 1,200 years from the Cocle culture. So it's between about 700 and 1000 CE. And they found this tomb with sacrificial victims as well within it. All right, but they also had a lot of gold bracelets, earrings, belts. Let me show you. This is what they found on the ground. So a pretty opulent royal tomb from the Cocle culture. And then the last thing I want to tell you about is another LiDAR survey in the Amazon. You might have heard about this. Okay, this is in Ecuador. Now, there already was, I think the survey was done in like 2015, but they have to study it now and analyze it and all of that. And after the study, they've revealed in 2024 that they have found quite a number of interconnected cities. We're not talking about towns or villages, interconnected cities within the Amazon jungle. All right. These are of equal complexity to what we find in the Maya world. All right. So here we have a whole civilization probably that is in the Amazon that is ripe for the picking for us to go in and check. Now it's going to be, of course, hard to go in there and do anything because it's in the rainforest. But it tells us that at one time it was inhabited by a pretty advanced culture. So how many did they say there were? 5 large cities and 10 smaller settlements spanning 300 square kilometers. Yeah. So that's some of the things that are going on in 2024, folks.
Wow.
And